Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the 20th edition of the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegraywolf.com. That's right, we've made it to 20, going strong, many more to come. I've had a blast. Thanks for coming along the ride with me. So, what are we doing on the 20th iteration, I guess, of the weekly Wringer? I'm going to wrap up last week's fill-in-the-blank question. First time we've done that. You guys had a great response to that. So we'll wrap up the fill-in-the-blank with some of your unique contributions. I will, as I always do, come up with some of my own thoughts on the subject. And then we'll move on to the question for next week, which really surrounds the future of a video game brand in crisis. So, yeah, so here we are, 20 strong, guys. Not too shabby, huh? So what was last week? Let's see. So last week was the fill-in-the-blank, first time we've ever done that, as I said. And it really surrounded Nickelodeon and the old, the old shows on Nickelodeon that really kind of touched us or were most accurately represented our personalities, which was the question, right? Now, I like to fill in the blank, and we'll probably do more of that in the future. Maybe I'll figure out another way to slip little high school exam type questions in there as well. We'll do like a matching game. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, a lot of great comments. And before I get into that, I want to say a couple things. One, DJB123 asked about YouTube poop. Yes, I love it. Yes, I'm not. If you ask Rue or Boomer, they will both tell you I have an unhealthy obsession for it. As a matter of fact, I had a CDI and the original Zelda games for it, which were either classic or the worst games ever made to you, depending on how you look at it. But so I had firsthand knowledge of all the videos before people started hacking them up and everything else, and so I love YouTube poop. I won't. This is not about YouTube poop. This whole weekly Wringer, but I wanted to mention that. Let's get a topic started about that, or let's do something, because I want to say thanks for your contribution on that, and I'm gonna throw out. I definitely do have some favorites, and I'll throw some stuff out there for that. Yeah, and some of you also said, now switching back. Some of you said you would rather this question be about Cartoon Network than Nickelodeon. Fair enough, guys. One thing I love about the Weekly Wringer series so far is that we really do have 1, 2, maybe even 3 generations of geeks that really tune into the site every week, see what's going on, that kind of stuff. And as a result, we're going to get different kinds of answers. As we saw this week, some of you loyal viewers who I love very much as a part of the contributors to this site and beyond. You guys weren't alive back then, watching in the early '90s or the late '90s, watching Nickelodeon. And by the time you knew it, it might have not been nearly as good as it was when I was a kid and watching it. So this show definitely was a little bit biased toward folks that are more my age, but that's okay. It's my show, and I can do what I want with it. No, I'm just kidding. The reason I like your critique about Cartoon Network, several of you, is because Cartoon Network really became popular and became kind of the place for cool kid shows and animated shows specifically later on, by the time I was already in high school and beyond. So I appreciate some of you even wrote about some of those great things. That's great, but I'm going to focus on just the greatest hits of just the Nickelodeon shows, since that was the question. And I promise sometime soon I will ask about some Cartoon Network material. Deal? Okay. Let's talk about an overarching theme. You guys it seemed like the overwhelming favorite was Doug, and I completely and totally understand why. I think if I'm going to be completely honest and look at one character that represents me the best, I would probably say it had to be Doug, right? Doug is this regular kid who's just a nice guy, a little shy, pretty smart, got a lot of dreams, has a little bit of a daydreaming problem, right? And I think we can all say we've been there, right? He likes to think about things that probably don't have anything to do with what's going on right now. He has that what I call the Scrubs effect, where he sees something and then he imagines something happening, playing off of that situation in real life, but then it doesn't happen. It turns out to be just kind of a daydream. That's really cool. That was a great element with Doug that resonated with me, and I'm sure resonated with many of you. And as you all described it, he's just kind of a regular guy. and you know, he's just kind of the average kid doing, you know, maybe trying to think of himself doing more than average stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of us love video games. It's why a lot of us love fantasy, those kinds of novels and movies and things like that. And that's why we come to the site. So I'm not at all surprised that most of you like Doug, and I think it's a fantastic choice. I'm going to run through some of the things that are up there right now. That I think are my favorite contributions, let's say. Youngblood said, "Are you afraid of the dark?" I don't know what that says about your personality, my friend, but I'm very, very glad that you chose it. Are You Afraid of the Dark was a horror series, for those of you that don't know, back on Nickelodeon past. It was Canadian produced, so the kids talked a little weird for us in America. And some of the situations seemed a little strange and Canadian, oddly Canadian. But, you know, if you want to see Hayden Christensen before Star Wars, check out some Are You Afraid of the Dark? But anyway, there was that R.L. Stine series on Fox, I think, that followed in the footsteps of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But nothing was like the original. And I still could never turn the lights out and watch it when I was a kid by myself. It really did creep me out, although now it probably isn't very scary at all. But I thank you for the contribution. Are You Afraid of the Dark was a great show, and I just don't know what it says about your personality. But that's a different story. Arcus and Estolia for the near dead heat tie on Rocko's Modern Life. Could not agree more. Rocko's Modern Life is a fantastic show. One that I think is absolutely worthy of mention here, because Rocko, again, very kind of meek, down-home guy, just really is a genuine person just trying to help people. And inevitably, his friends or his neighbors or whoever that just have no respect for him whatsoever end up just complicating his life to no end and making things turn really, really sour for him. But at the end of the day, he's just a regular guy, and he's just trying to make his way through life and dealing with the scenarios that everyday life really presents to us. And so I love what you guys did with that. I think it's a great idea, and I think it probably meshes well again with the folks that visit this site. It was a little bit more zany. It was definitely a little more disgusting. I remember brains popping out of people's heads and all kinds of other things. And you know, it's just really cool. It's a great show, and I think it's definitely worthy of mention. I'm not surprised to hear that a few of us out there really relate to that show well, and it accurately really describes our personality. I want to say that Nightcrawler, Pete and Pete, great contribution. Pete and Pete was one of those shows, this is one of those shows that I think comes along every so often, that really is very representative of a very specific era in time. If kids today are watching Pete and Pete, I don't think they're probably going to relate nearly as much as I did as a kid and as many of you did as a kid. If you want to get the 90s experience in one show, watch Pete and Pete. I mean, it almost exactly really represents it very well. It's an era gone by. It looks very dated to us now, but for those of us that grew up at that time, it absolutely represents that time perfectly. So thank you for Pete and Pete. And my question would be then, you know, which Pete do you think represents your personality? Or, you know, is it just Petunia? Or even Artie, the strongest man in the world? Anyway, thank you for mentioning Pete and Pete. That's a great, great contribution. And I didn't know how far back you guys were going to go, but I want to say a big thanks to Temu John for mentioning my first show that I ever watched on Nickelodeon, along with shows like Today's Special and Pinwheel. And if any of you don't know what those are, you need to go look them up now. But You Can't Do That on Television was the first show I really enjoyed on Nickelodeon. It had, what does it say about someone's personality that it accurately represents it? One, you know, it was very Canadian, because it was Canadian TV. It was kind of a sketch comedy for kids. If any of you know All that came many, many years after, which is a little more contemporary to those of us probably watching the video right now, that was really in the same vein. So it was, there was a lot going on there. With You Can't Do That on Television. It introduced slime, the idea of slime and sliming. That was an original to You Can't Do That on Television. And maybe Alanis Morissette. I don't know. Maybe Alanis Morissette's indicative of your personality. I don't know. But You Can't Do That on Television was a great show. Very zany, very, the sketch comedy is very dry. It's kind of a weird show and a weird situation. And, I think it's absolutely worthy of mention. I'm a little surprised at some of the shows that didn't get picked as favorites. I mean, we had some of the jokes that went down there. Some of you said Nick Arcade, which I like because it was kind of a video gaming game show. Okay, I'll give you that. That's cool. I like that idea. And I especially want to thank Arcus for posting that What the Hell is Wrong With video. Definitely check those out and start watching the rest of them. And if you like Legends of the Hidden Temple, you need to follow that link and click the What the Hell is Wrong With for Legends of the Hidden Temple, which is, I think, immediately follows the Nick Arcade one. That is also very funny. So, some of the shows that didn't get a whole lot of mention. I mean, there are a lot of them out there, guys. When I started thinking about all the Nickelodeon shows that were there, that could have been picked, there were just so many. And who knows? Maybe Mr. Wizard's World, or I don't know. Could be anything in the world. The point is, you guys did a great job. There's a lot to unravel here, and that is where I'm going to leave it going into my contribution now. Obviously, I said Doug. Doug is a big deal. But it's not my answer to the question. I think a lot of you probably expect me to say SpongeBob SquarePants after last week. It is absolutely not SpongeBob SquarePants, although, I mean, I don't know. I think it probably could be SpongeBob. SpongeBob's that kind of geeky, nice guy who just is trying to do the best thing, but he's a little too enthusiastic for me. I think I have a little bit of a darker side to me that SpongeBob doesn't have. Every once in a while, SpongeBob gets really mad, and I go, yeah, that's more like the Commodore as SpongeBob, right? Anyway, but it's not SpongeBob SquarePants. That's not the one I'm going to pick. The one I'm going to pick, and it got mentioned, but not as a favorite by some of you out there, was Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy was the show that most accurately represented my personality. Now, before you all start to think, man, is Commodore some kind of horrible jerk that had the attention span of a gnat? Maybe, I don't know. But hold those feelings for a second and let me explain myself, at least. The reason I love Ren and Stimpy is several-fold. One, there was an element of randomness to it, but randomness was not the crux of the show. It was very witty. It was very nuanced. It was very subtle. And I love all of those things, and I think a part of my sense of humor got shaped by that show. And that's why I think for me, that's got to be one of mine, because Ren and Stimpy was all of those things and really represented my personality well. Now, it also is multi-layered, and it has different kinds of feel to it depending on when you watch it. And I think that represents my personality, because I think we all have different moods that we're in and different shades of ourselves. But for me, I think that's acute. I mean, I definitely have different times when different things make me laugh, or if I'm in different situations, certain things are going to touch me in terms of feelings, or my state of mind will resonate with me better at certain moments than others. And I think Ren and Stimpy runs the gamut. It really goes through all of them, and that's why I really, really enjoy it. Yes, it's quirky. It can be disgusting. It also has a lot of toilet humor that's just ridiculous. And there's a part of me that just loves that stuff. That's one of the reasons I love South Park, which they definitely picked up on from Ren and Stimpy. And it can be disgusting. It's got those close-up, ultra-realistic shots. So I think it was the first show to really employ that, which was picked up later by SpongeBob. Although SpongeBob was made by many of the same people that ended up making Ren and Stimpy by its end. And Ren and Stimpy, the classical music we already talked about, my deep appreciation for classical music, I think, starts from Ren and Stimpy. It also had a lot of really strange kind of old movie-esque. I mean, John Kricfalusi was definitely paying homage to all the old 50s films and Space Odysseys and all these other kinds of things. And it was just, if you knew that material, you just know it. You just laugh so much harder. The referential end of it was so fantastic, and I like to think I'm that kind of a guy too. So my answer is definitely Ren and Stimpy, and I hope none of you think I'm too crazy for that. All right. That being said, one other thing I wanted